You're listening to episode 64 of A Whole New You podcast. On today's show, we are discussing how we can best care for ourselves and our families in this time of social distancing and quarantine during the coronavirus pandemic. This is a long episode and one we thought about breaking up into two. However, given the timeliness of the content, we decided to air it all as one episode. Please remember that you can always pause the show and come back to it. You'll want to listen to the end, however, because we share some good perspectives and silver lining takeaways that we hope will feed your soul. We want you to know we're thinking of you with much love, and we're praying for your health and well-being. Welcome to A Whole New You podcast. I'm your co-host, Kim Maravich. I'm a registered nurse and author of the book 360 Health. I'm joined by my dear friend, Laurie Biddle, a health and wellness coach certified through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Our show exists to inspire and empower women to take charge of their health with weekly tips and conversation about self-care, mindset, nutrition, fitness, and clean living. Please keep in mind that the material provided in this podcast is intended as general information only and should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We're thrilled to have you here. Let's get to the show. Welcome back, everybody. Today, we are recording on March 25th, 2020, and our country and all across the world is in the midst of a global pandemic with the COVID-19 coronavirus. It's affecting our entire world. It is a unique time in our world where we are all practicing social distancing. So we're all staying in our homes, trying not to go out into the community so as to protect everyone from getting the virus and spreading it. It's certainly not an easy time, and there are also a lot of fears. So today's show is an effort to show some positive aspects and some silver linings. We do want to be sensitive, and we want to honor all the feelings you're having. And we're certainly aware that folks are getting very sick and that this is a serious situation. Like I said, we're all doing our parts by staying in our homes so as to decrease the spread of the virus. But now, more than ever, it's really important to manage our stress levels too. And we do want to address that today. We have very little control over the situation, and that is scary for many of us. So it's important for us to talk about things, and we're going to attempt to do that today on today's show.
Yeah. And Kim, even under normal circumstances, most of us live a really big part of our day in fight or flight. And now a lot of us truly are in survival mode. So we need to physically bring our cortisol levels down daily, or we know we can wreak complete havoc on our hormones. So, that's just looking at it from that perspective. There's many, many reasons why we need to control our stress, but also, we as women, this is a problem with our hormones when our cortisol levels are elevated all day and sometimes even all night. So it is super important for us just to even, a couple times a day, just stop and take 5 deep breaths, even if there's nothing else that you can do, because we're different kind of busy. We're not busy running around like we typically have, but we're still busy adapting to change and kids at home and working from home. And I know we still have a lot to do. So if you're finding you can't escape and get outside, and some of the things that we're going to talk about, throughout this podcast, at least wherever you are, stop and take 5 deep breaths, because that will physically bring your body out of fight or flight. So that's a really big deal. But if you can, do some sort of formal meditation or take a relaxing bath or yoga, do it. Now is the time. Yesterday, I had a little break in between appointments and I went up and took a bath. And I'm like, you know what? Can't do that when you're at the office all day. So, I mean, there are some disadvantages to our current situation, but there are, some advantages as well if we take a minute to look at them.
That's a really good point. And yeah, I have found myself just taking some deep breaths, whether it's just I'm, worried or watching the news, or like you mentioned, having kids at home. And we want to make the disclaimer ahead of time that we're going to try to edit out any background noise that we might have, but both Laurie and I have our kids at home. My kids are upstairs watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory now, so hopefully that'll hold them over. But if there is some noise, we know that you'll understand, because you're probably in the same situation with a house full of kids, or just you're off schedule. So good points, Laurie. I think I would like to take a bath too. That sounds like a goal for me this week as well. I also wanted to say that we can look at this as a time for rest, and I think it's interesting that this is happening during Lent, in the Lenten season, because Lent is a time to return to the Lord. And maybe we pray more, or we meditate, like Laurie said, or we do some Lenten devotions. Pastor Ron Brown, who is the pastor of Hope Lutheran in Cranberry, which is Laurie's church and my former church when I lived in the Pittsburgh area, has been doing a daily time on Facebook to read and interpret scripture. And I know that there are a lot of churches doing that. And what a blessing that is for people who can't get to church, but can really kind of get in touch with the word in that way. I also subscribe to an email list, and it's called She Reads Truth. It's a free email that I get daily, and they've been doing some devotionals too. So that's been a nice way to, start my day with it, or just whenever I have a free moment, to kind of, get back, like I said, to that season of Lent, and to returning to the Lord to think about the promises that He has made to us. I also want to say that we're really fortunate to be in a time where we have electricity and hot water and cable and internet and refrigerators. I mean, I think about, what did people do during the plagues, of ancient times, when they didn't have these, amenities. So we really are blessed to be in this time. And although this is inconvenient, in comparison to former generations, we really are sitting pretty. So I saw a meme on Instagram, and I think it was Kristen Bell, the actress, who put a picture. It was a picture of a couch, and above it, it said, "Our elders were called to war to save lives. We are being called to sit on the couch to save theirs. We can do this." And I think that's so very relevant, because really we're not being called to do very much. But our elders, those are the people who are most susceptible to infections. And we can help them by just staying in our homes and not bringing the virus out, into the world, because we don't know. Sometimes the virus takes up to, we've heard, 14 days to actually present itself. It could be in your system. So you could be out and about not knowing that you have it, yet contaminating people. So that's one of the reasons why, our government and states all across the US in countries and throughout Europe especially, they're being asked to stay at home. Just stay in your house, not pass the virus, make sure that we're taking care of other people during this time.
Yeah, and it's all so important. And I have to say, I've been hunkering down. But when I do have to go out to the grocery store, I keep hearing the words, or maybe it's just what's ringing in my mind, like the invisible killer, right? Mm-hmm. So I keep thinking like it's lurking everywhere,
Yeah.
And it's freaking me out a little bit. And, that goes into the whole fear aspect of all of this that everyone is feeling. But one of the, you spoke, Kim, about some of the things you've been seeing on social media, and thank goodness for some of them that are like such comic relief, like the pictures of people, what all of our hair is going to look like when we come out of this, and like the kids with the short bangs, like back when our parents all used to cut our hair, like we're going back to that. Like there's been some really funny things. But, one of the things that I saw, a quote that was the most impactful in my opinion, especially dealing with kind of my fear that I've been feeling around this, and my my retired germaphobe that's kind of resurfacing from all of this. But it says, the virus has the power to destroy you mentally before it ever touches you physically. And isn't that the truth? Like, not that there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who are being affected by this physically. And you know what? Who knows, Kim? You and I might be one of them next week. We don't know. Mm-hmm. But right now, it's affecting everybody mentally. Again, regardless if it's physically affected you or your family. And, that is something that we have a little bit of control over. Like, I would like to say I have control over it physically too. I'm working really hard to build my immune system over here, but, there are no guarantees. But the mind, we can work to try to get some of that stuff under control. Now, that being said, this is a heavy time. It is heavy. And we are going to have all kinds of feelings around it. I mean, that's just the way it is. And we have to feel those feelings. We have to have compassion for others. We may even need to feel sorry for ourselves sometimes for our situation and the impact this has had on ourselves or our loved ones or our finances, many, many things that this is impacting. But the key is, at some point, we need to be able to pull ourselves out of that. And we need to be able to find something to be grateful for. And, the coming of spring is very timely, I think, with everything that's going on, because all we have to do is step outside and you will see, to use your words, Kim, we were just having this conversation before we started the recording, of like signs of promise everywhere. There's buds on the trees, there's flowers popping up, there's birds chirping, there's signs of life, and I just think that's encouragement, and we need that. So let's step away from our computers, let's put our phones down and take a couple minutes and step outside and just take it all in. Spring is coming, and thank goodness for that.
I think that's so true. And it is nice that, this isn't in the dead of winter and we can get outside some days. And I think what you said is such a good point, that spring really is a promise of new life. And it just, it helps me remember that this too shall pass and life will go on. There will be rebirth of our world again. And so that's kind of, a beautiful way to look at it. The reality is, this virus isn't going to kill most of us, even if we do get infected. And that's not to say that there haven't been people very seriously affected and some families who've been, devastated by this. But putting it in perspective, we have to stay strong. And as I said earlier, we have an important job to come together to care for our aging and those who are immune compromised. I know of a couple families who are affected by cancer right now, and they're scared because they have to go out into the hospitals to get treatment. And so they're being exposed to things. And so that's why it's doubly important that we just stay in our homes. That's what we can do. And it's a little thing, but it can do an abundance of good. So let's try to look for some of the good in this. And I know it's hard, but we gain nothing by worrying. So Laurie and I are going to be talking about, some positive aspects of staying home and maybe some fun things too.
Yeah, because worrying sometimes is just a huge waste of energy. And again, can be hard to control, and there's a lot to worry about. We recognize that, we acknowledge that 100%. But, isn't that always the case? We could always find things to worry about. Even if we weren't in the middle of crisis like we are right now, let's be honest, we can always find things to worry about.
Right.
So just like any other time, we have to find tactics and find ways to kind of lift those worries up and, take some weight off of our shoulders. And there's a book called Anxious for Nothing, and it's about finding calm in a chaotic world. I got it off of, and you guys have probably heard me refer to this in the past, there's a shelf at our church that's free books. Mm-hmm. And, this was one of those. Our pastor had done a book study on this, and I just happened to either get someone's copy when they were done with it, or I don't know. I just found it on the shelf. It was meant to be. But, this summer I had really kind of actually on my chalkboard in my kitchen, I had wrote this because, we were dealing with a little anxiety in our house. And I just thought, this is something we need to see every day. And I'm bringing it back because I feel like this is something we need to see every day right now. So I'm going to put this in the show notes, but if you have a piece of paper and a pencil and you would like to jot this down, I also recommend writing it somewhere or printing it out so that you can hang it as a sign on your fridge or, on a wherever in your kitchen or setting it on the counter, just somewhere where you can see it on a daily basis. But what you want to do is write the word calm going down. Okay. And then with the C, it's celebrate God's goodness. The A, ask God for help. The L, leave your concerns with him. And M, meditate on good things. And I just loved that. That was so helpful to me. And I just want to go back to it and make sure it's somewhere that I'm seeing it all the time right now.
Mm-hmm. I think I want to write that down too. I have the notes that I'm looking at, but I want to put that out nice and big because I think it's important that we are, returning to God, but then also concentrating on the good things, like you said, meditating on the good things too. So we wanted to talk today. We kind of broke up our notes into some categories of things that we could talk about that might be at the forefront of your mind, and bring some levity to it too. So one thing is food. And I'm seeing again on social media that people are worried about gaining weight, like I'm seeing the Corona 15, like instead of the freshman 15. My sister sent me something yesterday. It was like a meme that she saw, and it said, will the producers of My 600-Pound Life be contacting me, or should I contact them when it's over, or how's this going to work? That's so funny because, when you're stuck in the house, and I think a lot of people, we just recorded an episode, did it air last week, Laurie, about like eating, emotional eating and just how sometimes we turn to comfort foods, especially when we're stressed. And so that is very understandable. And so, we kind of say, at least I do, eat what feels good right now. And it's okay to overindulge in snack food once in a while. And in fact, it's a little bit hard to find healthy snack food, especially at my store. Like, for example, I was looking for peanut butter. I usually buy like organic peanut butter. Oh, there's none of that. There was one brand that was like, filled with soybean oil and stuff. And I ended up getting it because what are you going to do? I need some peanut butter. My boys like it. But sometimes, the supermarket shelves are pretty sparse right now in some ways. So, my first word of advice is just to kind of eat what feels good. What were you going to say?
And I've had, some clients that I've been talking to about how to still kind of have some things on hand that are healthy. One thing that people have been worried about are protein sources because, some stores, it's been really hard to find meat, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we've talked about some plant proteins and stuff, and maybe that's one of the silver linings of this too, is that people are turning to, some plant proteins and some other proteins that maybe they wouldn't have explored under normal circumstances. But some of the advice I've given out as far as good foods to have on hand and stock up on, and maybe not take up a lot of fridge space, and, in lieu of the meat that you usually eat, just not being available. So, fresh produce and things like that have not been all that hard to find. However, if you're only going to the grocery store, ideally once a week or once every 2 weeks, it's hard to keep that stuff fresh and have it on hand.
Mm-hmm.
So frozen fruit and vegetables, when you can find it, just stock up on those 100%. Like the zoodles, the riced cauliflower, like those things are great to have around. And any kind of fresh fruit, because you can always defrost it or you can make smoothies with it. So that's really a good way, again, if your area is not selling out on that stuff, to kind of stock your produce and still get like a good bit of nutrients from it. When it's frozen like that, it still maintains a good bit of the nutrient level that it had when it was fresh. Protein powder, like a good high quality plant-based protein powder is good to have, like even a meal replacement one, and some boxed like almond milk that doesn't need refrigerated.
That's a good tip.
So those things are like in my garage in case we run out of food.
So smart.
Because, it's a meal replacement. So if we had to, we could make that work. Another thing is chia seeds. A lot of people, chia seeds aren't on their radar, but chia seeds are a good fat and they're also a complete protein.
Mm-hmm.
So, just having those on hand and tossing them in something that you're eating can really give you some good nutrition and some of those macros that you need. So, protein and fats, that's wonderful. And then another huge go-to has been boxes of bone broth, which you can sip on. You can make soups out of them. You can, using those frozen vegetables, and like peas are a good one to throw in there because peas are also a source of plant protein, so you can get those. Spinach is great to throw in some bone broth. But, bone broth you're getting, and we've talked about this on previous episodes too, you're getting a lot of the minerals from the bones. So you're getting a lot of nutritional value there, as well as some protein.
Yeah.
And good for boosting the immune system, which we all need. So boxes of bone broth are great to have around. And these are all things that aren't really taking up space in your refrigerator, because we're trying to stock our fridges, right? And we're running out of room, to stock for a family for 2 weeks.
Yes.
So, and tuna is another one too, like some good wild caught tuna, just things that you can keep. If your pantry is overstocked, then keep them in your fridge. It's kind of like your backup food, but just some good like protein source ideas for people who are having a hard time finding meat and want to still kind of keep eating somewhat healthy. And the snacking thing's tough because like those aren't getting replenished real quickly.
Yeah, no.
And we don't want to eat through our stash, so that's tough for us overeaters and stress eaters. Like we've got a limited amount of food for the time being. So if we eat it all in one day, that's a problem.
Yeah, it really is. One thing you were saying about, I thought that was so good about the frozen fruits and vegetables. I actually, long story, but I had done a curbside pickup, which is really nice, which I was going to talk about in just a second. But anyway, my order got messed up and I was charged for too much. So they actually asked me to come back into the store last night. So I wasn't like thrilled about that because I had to go, expose myself and go into the store. But I was noticing in the produce aisle that there still are, a kind of a lot of fruits and vegetables there. But I think what Laurie was saying about the hardy, like produce, because like you don't want to buy like a lot of leafy greens, I guess, right now, because if you're not going all the time, I mean, you could buy them, but you have to consume them and they don't last forever. So things like that are hardier would be like carrots, potatoes, sweet potatoes, apples, and celery. They last for a long time, and even some of the citrus. So those are good things, to get some nourishment from. It also made me think, I just thought for a second about Thrive Market. And Thrive Market is a place you can't really buy fresh things there, but they have a lot of things and they ship it to you. And I think it's free shipping. And I'm not quite sure of the amount, if it's over $30 or $50, but it's really easy to do, and they'll ship it to you for free. So, box things and snacks and pasta sauces and things like that. That's a good option for people, so they don't have to go out. So one other thing I was going to say is just that, we also know it doesn't feel good to eat like crap all the time, So even though you want to eat what feels good, it doesn't feel good after a while when you're just overindulging. So good nutrition is really important to help keep us strong and for our immune systems. Sugar really is not our friend during this time. Sugar does wear down your immune system. And so it's okay to have some desserts. And I see lots of people baking cookies and cakes and stuff, and that's fun. And it's fun to include your kids, they're at home. So, definitely do that and enjoy that. But just make sure that you are trying to get in some nutrients and not just sugar, also. So, also, I mentioned the grocery pickup and delivery. Those are really awesome options if you can do that, because it alleviates the stress of being around others and not spreading the germs. I actually called my parents last week and pulled up my computer while they were on their computer, and I walked them through how to do pickup online at Giant Eagle because they hadn't done that before. And so, especially, for my parents are in their 70s. So, anybody who would be probably 65 and older, especially, needs to stay out of the public and So that's such a nice option. Again, we live in such a great time that we're able to do things like that.
Kim, I just have to mention
Yeah.
real quickly too, the last time the girls and I left the house was last week. We went to pick up a curbside.
Yeah.
And they were so excited for a ride in the car. Like, it was a nice day. We put all the windows down. We were like blasting the music, just to drive to John Eagle for them to put our groceries in the back of our car and back. But it was like the funnest ride ever.
I know it is. It's like my Adam like couldn't wait to come, and we have a DVD player, you know, in the car, and he was like, I want to go. And he went with his dad to pick something up, and we're not, Jim actually went into Kroger because they have a red box there. He wanted to get a DVD. But I was like, please don't bring him in the store. You know, I don't, cause you know, kids, they touch everything and then they pick their noses and whatever. So he just stayed in the car just to watch, you know, a DVD. So it's fun. Like, you just appreciate these little things, like having a car.
Our hair was so crazy when we got out. Like, I don't think I ever do that. I mean, because usually we're driving to go somewhere, right? So we don't want to look like that, but we didn't care. We were just coming home. Like, the wind blew our hair into all these crazy knots, and we were just like, woo. But then I did say, okay, when you girls get your license and you're driving around with friends, don't do this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. This is a short time that we could do that. So.
This is a quarantine joyride. Don't get used to it.
And it's funny because those are the things that they're going to remember, you know?
Yeah.
It's out of the ordinary. So, one other thing I was going to say about just the food was that I've seen people really coming together, and I don't know if your neighborhood does this, Laurie, but my neighborhood is part of, I think the app is Nextdoor. And so you can post like to the community and stuff. And there have been some college age kids offering to shop for elderly in our area and to deliver groceries to them. I just thought that's such a nice service, and we really need to come together to help each other during this time. So
definitely. And there's just a couple of things that you were just talking about, Kim, that I want to kind of circle back to. One of them being the sugar thing, because yes, you're right. Like, sugar, a lot of that stuff is so comforting right now. And my girls are right there with everyone else baking cookies every night because they're home and they want to do it, and it's fun. And I'm not saying I haven't eaten some of those cookies,
right.
But I taught a workshop last night for the Be Balanced clients, and in the content was something so powerful. I made sure I read it twice, and I'm going to read it today too for you guys, because like right now with this virus going around and us trying to keep our, you know, immune system strong and fight this, it's just a message that we need to hear. So first of all, it talks about how sugar is addictive, and it's 8 times as addictive as cocaine, which I think we've heard that before. But this is the part that really hit me hard, I guess, and this is content that we present on a regular basis, you know, not just during this time of crisis, but so relevant right now to what we're experiencing. So it says, not only is it as addictive as cocaine, but every time you consume excess sugar, your white blood cells' ability to ward off disease is lowered for several hours. And when you think about that and you just take out the word disease and insert the word virus, you know, we are literally weakening our defenses for hours after that. So, doesn't say don't eat any sugar, but really kind of keep that in mind. Like you said, Kim, it's not our friend right now, because we need to keep our immune system strong and fighting, you know. The other thing I wanted to mention is way back when we started this podcast, back in January of last year, it was actually on January 22nd. And it's episode 4, because I've seen on some people's phones, they're not seeing episode numbers for our podcast. They're seeing dates. So I wanted to give both. It's episode 4, and it was released on January 22nd, but it is our episode on boosting immunity. And it's a really good one to go back and revisit right now, because we give options, like we give lifestyle practice kind of options. We give some food advice on, you know, foods that will help boost immunity. We give some essential oil advice on how to leverage using our oils and, you know, to boost our immune system. So some really good information in there for you guys. Instead of reiterating it all again today, we'll just refer you back to that episode, which I think is over an hour in and of itself.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, very good point. That's a good one to go back and listen to, especially a lot of us have some extra time on our hands. So go back and
Right.
that's the next one to listen to.
Right.
So let's move into talking about relationships a little bit. It's hard, if you are in a house full of people, we do need to allow everyone to have their alone time and to enforce it too, whether it's closing the door to your room or telling your kids that you need some time or allowing your kids to have their own time. Because too much together time can be stressful also. It's great to have this time with our families, but too much can kind of backfire also. So it's nice to be together and we can definitely grow as a family, but we do need that downtime as well.
For sure. So in my house, we all have our own workspaces. My daughters last week did not have schoolwork to do, but that started this Monday. They have desks in their room, which used to be in my office. We used to have a whole workspace where my work desk was here, and then I had both of the girls' desks in this room, and it was kind of our work room. But they, this school year, both communicated that they would like to have their desks up in their room. And boy, did that happen in the nick of time, because we got them all set up in their room, and then this happened. And it's kind of good because now, we all have our own workspace. My office has become my own, and I've made it my own. I've got pictures of Kim and I on the shelves and podcast stuff, and I got to display all my books because I kind of moved their stuff out of here. So it's been kind of fun setting up my own office space. But again, that was happening before I even knew this was coming. So I'm grateful to have this space of my own to work in. The girls are up in their rooms. My husband's always had an office and an extra room upstairs. It's like a man cave. I'm talking like deer heads on the wall staring at you. It's been kind of his man space because he lives with 3 women. So, and he really doesn't say anything about how we decorate this house, but that room is his own. But my office, which is the dining room, does not have doors. So it's been a little challenging this week. I mean, good thing the girls have been upstairs in their rooms working for the most part, because I don't have doors on my office, and I'm on client calls. I'm leading virtual workshops, recording podcasts. I really could use some soundproofing. And unfortunately, I had that ordered. I ordered doors. They're all measured. It's all planned. They're nice solid wood craftsman like doors that will kind of shut me off from the rest of the house here, which will be great. But they were ordered in February. They're custom, and now who knows when I'm going to get them. And now is kind of when I need them most, but we're working it out. But, I keep thinking I could go up to my husband's office, and I guess I could for like calls and stuff like that, because he has doors, but I just can't do it. Kim, there's like deer staring at me. They have like marble eyes, and they are
my.
I can't do it. Plus, if I'm on a video call, that's not what I want people to see in the background, a big deer. So he's got the doors, but I've got the nice calming space. So I'll take it for now.
We've been so pretty.
So, we have been working in our own spaces, but we've been coming together for meals, and that's been really fun. We've turned our Alexa on and been playing some music during meals. And it's funny because I think that started because I chew too loud, apparently. So we started with
whoa.
Yep. That's what my daughters told me. I chew too loud. So we've started playing music while we're eating and talking, but like the music's in the background. But what it's prompted is like all these kitchen dance parties, which I'll take it. It's so fun.
Yeah, that is fun.
So that's been kind of our way to kind of unwind and come together, even though we're working separately. And I have to say, we're kind of homebodies. So, besides the lurking doom we're all feeling around this, there's no avoiding that. But from what I've seen so far, like this is really not that big of a stretch for my family. Like we really do know how to relax. We don't like to be busy all the time. We usually eat at home. Like I just don't feel like this has been really turned our worlds upside down as far as day-to-day activities, other than the girls are here, not going to school. I mean, obviously it's on a much grander scale than usual, but if I look at like our weekends, again, we're not out socializing a whole lot. We don't go out to eat a whole lot. Like, we like to be home. So this is just kind of a lot more of that. It might get old real fast. I don't know. We're still on the front end of all of this, but for now, it's kind of been okay. I do have to say, my husband, as a small business owner, has had a lot of added stress with this. I mean, like, a lot. But the introvert in him can totally get on board with everyone just keeping to themselves for a while. So that part you can kind of get into. But yeah, I mean, this has been a lot of stress from the business standpoint for sure.
Yeah, and our hearts really go out to all those small business owners and people that are affected financially by this. We're just praying that the government can help us a little bit get through the time, but also it will be short-lived so that people aren't going bankrupt over this time, because that's a real concern too. From us in my house, I'm finding myself cooking a lot more because my husband usually travels, and when he is on the road, my kids are 4 and 6. They're kind of picky eaters, and so they typically don't really eat what he and I eat, or they might take little pieces of it, but they're not really, they'll try it, but they're not really into it. So I am cooking a lot more, which I guess is a good thing. And we've been having some dance parties too. We have an Alexa in our kitchen, and the other day, Kenny Rogers passed away. And so I was watching the news, and they were playing some of his songs, and, of course my boys had no idea who he was. And so I was asking Alexa to play his music. And so she was playing The Gambler, and I was teaching them. And so they were like all into it. It was really fun, Yeah. And, I guess on my end, as far as relationships go, I've just decided I am not breaking up every fight. My boys are together way more now than ever. They don't typically get along, and I usually am separating them, but it's really too exhausting. So I'm allowing them to kind of work through it on their own. Sometimes I do have to break it up because it does get violent with boys. They can really hurt each other. But I think they're learning from these experiences, and they're learning what their dad and I expect from them. But I'm, trying to get them to use their own voice and not just have us come to their rescue all the time. And I think for me, I'm giving my attention to the kids when I am with them. And I think, Laurie, this has been a blessing in some ways that we've decided to air our podcast every other week. We did that before this coronavirus even came out, but it's allowing us the freedom to do that. So that's been a huge blessing that we can still do the podcast, but also take some time for our families.
And, we were talking before any of this of like how we're going to manage this in the summer with the kids home. Well, we're finding out. We're just going to have to do it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And we have wonderful listeners who totally get it, I'm sure, if we get interrupted here and there by our kids. But so anyway, I am, trying to spend more time with them. They both have e-learning, and stuff that they're supposed to do for their classes. But they're also seeing, because I am enforcing this like I haven't before. I am enforcing mommy time, and it's not a lot, but I am trying to make time to exercise, to do some reading. I actually am reading a little bit, have a paperback, and I've been working on, this episode for the podcast. So they've seen me on my computer a little bit, but I think it's important that they know that I'm not at their beck and call like 24/7, because it can certainly turn into that in this situation. So. And then my goal is also, which we haven't really done too much yet, but spend some time with my husband after the boys go to bed, watching TV and just like trying to hang out with the two of us, because, he is still working from home and he's in his office like all day. And, part of me is more exhausted now than when they are in school, just because, not because I'm like I guess I'm physically moving around my house a lot, but it's just like, it's kind of emotionally draining having the kids at home all the time. So I am tired at night too, but I will say that I am getting better sleep because, the boys don't have to go to bed as early, but we're also just sleeping in. So that's been super nice.
Yeah, kind of nice to not have to set an alarm and rush everyone out the door. I mean, that is kind of a beautiful thing for sure.
Right.
And nice that your husband's not traveling, so he's actually physically home, which is nice for you guys. Yeah.
So good. Yes.
So my mom told me this week, and I loved this. So she's still working. My dad's retired, but my mom is not yet. And she works in retail. She works for Macy's, and they closed. And since then, she's been kind of forced to be at home. Well, that was actually even before we were all forced to be at home. But at any rate, her and my dad have been taking walks together every day. I just think it's so cute. And then she told me, and I love this, that she has been sitting on their deck and watching and listening to the birds. And she said, I have not done that in years. And it's just giving me a little sneak peek at like what retirement looks like, which is not too far away from her, and she's like, and it's good and I like it. And, it's just making her look forward to what's to come because she's getting a little taste of it. So
that's really awesome that she can.
I just thought that was neat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to take a quick break from the show to talk about a few immune boosting supplements that could be quite helpful to you and your loved ones right now to help protect against the coronavirus. Our show affiliate, Energy Bits, provides high-quality, third-party tested for purity algae. Their algae tablets are so nutrient-dense and chlorophyll-rich, they are the simplest, safest way to build your immune system. Algae has the highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world, and chlorophyll is so healing. It's often used instead of blood if there are shortages for blood transfusions. You can purchase Energy Bits tablets directly from their website, energybits.com. And when you do, be sure to use our 20% off discount code. Just type NEW YOU in the coupon box when you check out at energybits.com. Our 20% discount code works on all 4 algae brands. Recovery Bits are chlorella algae, Energy Bits and Beauty Bits are spirulina algae, and Vitality Bits are a combination of both spirulina and chlorella algae. Our other show partner, Perfect Supplements, has some awesome immune-boosting supplements as well. Perfect brand bone broth and collagen are so important for keeping our guts healthy. They actually help to heal the intestinal lining, which is perfect because we know that around 75% of our immune systems are actually in our intestinal tracts. Some other immune-boosting supplements to consider are their desiccated liver capsules, acai, and resveratrol. PerfectSupplements.com also carries other brands like Gaia Herbs, which offers elderberry syrup and oil of oregano. In addition, you can find Just Thrive spore-based probiotics and an array of important vitamins like vitamin C and zinc. Use coupon code KIM10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. When making these health-promoting purchases, you'll save and also help to support our podcast. Now let's get back to the show.
So let's move on to talking about devices a little bit because, those have been really helpful, I'll say in my house anyway. And, once again, I have to say we are so blessed to live in this era of modern technology and all these conveniences. And I will admit that we are not enforcing rules here. I feel like my kids have naturally taken breaks because you can only stare at a screen for so long. So that has been kind of nice that they're kind of self-filtering. My boys have been playing video games. They watch YouTube. They play games on their iPad. My oldest son brought home an iPad. Every kid in his school brought home an iPad from the school. Yeah. And so he's doing his e-learning on that. But then they get up and run around. So I just think, we really have to give ourselves grace during this time. And, if you are someone who is strict about technology, then that's great. But if you're not, I think it's just fine. Like your kids will survive. And when things go back to normal, you can go back to your normal routine. I think everybody understands that this is just a time that is different than the norm. So, we can't go out anywhere. And they've even said that you're not supposed to go to playgrounds, even if it's nice out, because, the virus can live on objects, on surfaces for hours and up to days in some cases. So,
and I think metal and plastic are the worst. And those are what most play sets are made out of.
For sure. Yes. Especially the plastic. Right. Now here, the weather's really nice today, but it hasn't been nice every day so far. And we're supposed to get a lot of rain this weekend. And we also can't really in good conscience get a babysitter to come. And again, I'll say it, devices are saving graces for us right now. So I'm all about that. And like I said, their teachers are using technology. My son, it was so cute. Like one of my sons yesterday had a Zoom call with his class, and my 4-year-old had a Zoom. He had a very important meeting, he said today, with his class on Zoom, which is how Laurie and I are talking right now.
A very important meeting. I love it.
So cute. I like took a little video and screenshots of him, talking to his classmates. But that's so cute that they can see each other and still see their teacher and talk, over the internet. So like I said, I monitor what they're doing to an extent, but I really am just grateful that we have these conveniences.
I completely agree. So my girls got TVs in their rooms for Christmas. And, I was on the fence about this one for a long time, but the older they got and the more I saw them on their devices, and maybe they were even like watching stuff on their devices, and it would have saved me some money to not buy another screen and just let them stream things on their devices, right? But at this point, they're in so many different group texts, and my older daughter is on social media, and it's just so much distraction. So if they're trying to watch a show to kind of veg out and clear their mind, but all the group texts are popping up, and they're getting snaps and their social media, like they can't ever just step away from it. So that was kind of the reasoning for the TVs, just so that they could veg a little bit without the distraction. But that has really come in handy. Like last week when they didn't have any work that they had to be doing, and I still did, so I needed quiet and I needed them to be kind of not in my space. And, they were tired. They were tired just from the schedules that they keep up till this point in the school year. So they really spent a lot of time just laying in their beds, watching TV, and they drifted in and out of sleep like all day. Like they slept so much last week, but I loved that. I thought, what a great way to strengthen their immune systems, just let them sleep. So they did. And that was nice that they could lay in their beds and watch TV, because a lot of times they just fell asleep. But, devices have been a really great way to stay in touch and feel connected throughout this time too, because to feel isolated and disconnected, boy, especially for a teenager, that just does not fly. They need to be connected all the time. But, devices do allow us to do that. And I've even been doing some group FaceTime with my college friends. We are all in different states. We're all over the place. And we all have kids the same age who are running to activities like every night, So typically we would never have the opportunity to do this, but we've all been home at night because all the activities are canceled. So we've been doing these group FaceTimes, and we've been laughing. Like it's been so great. I feel like I've talked to them more than I have in years. The only time we really talk is once a year. Like we'll text every once in a while, but, and we do have a group text thread going, but our big thing is we get together every May, and we've never missed a trip since we graduated from college a very long time ago.
Wow.
I'm talking, even when our kids were babies, like we just always made it happen. We never missed our annual trip, but we just, as of yesterday, had to cancel for this May, which is really sad. But I also feel like I've gotten to talk to them more in the last 2 weeks than I do normally. And I'm sure this going too. So that's been really nice. And my kids, there's constantly someone's face on their phone, like when they're walking around. They've always got someone on FaceTime. Like my husband's like walking around in his underwear, and he's like, whoa, friends' faces on their phones. So we have to kind of be a little more careful about that stuff. And then, they even play some games sometimes with, their friends on FaceTime. And they've done their dance classes. Our dance studio, like right away, even before the schoolwork started, like a couple days into this, our dance studio got set up on Zoom, and those instructors had classes going for these kids right away, which I think is so cool. And now this week they've kind of developed their weekly schedule, for a while here, and they're doing their dance classes on Zoom.
That's so fun.
They get to see their friends, they get to see the instructor, and they just need to find like a little space where they're not kicking things, which is hard for my girls' long legs. But so they've been able to kind of keep up with their dance classes. And I have to say, I have been able to run my business 100% virtually. Now, I've been set up to do that for quite some time, so I guess it's not that big of a deal, but most of my clients, at least the ones that are local, would always opt to do it in person whenever we could. So I really wasn't utilizing all these virtual tools that I had set up as much, because I still love the face-to-face. I would prefer that 100%. But now we're kind of being forced to do this. And fortunately, everything was in place for me. And I even ended up getting an awesome opportunity out of it that I would have never expected, because I do teach workshops weekly at the Be Balanced Center that I work at a couple days a week. And I love teaching those workshops. But I just work at a franchise, and there's 24 other locations nationwide. So corporate had contacted me when this all happened and asked me to lead their workshops for all 24 locations nationwide. So
That's amazing, Laurie.
yeah, 'cause they're going virtual from now until May at least, and as long as we need
Wow.
to, I guess. But right now I'm scheduled up till the first week of May to do these workshops every Tuesday night. Last night was the first one. It went pretty well. It was a lot of people. I had over 50 people registered.
Wow.
So, I really love in the workshops to get people talking and sharing. So that's something I still kind of have to figure out virtually with a big group like that,
Yeah.
because that was hard. And that to me is a big part of the value in that. So I'm working on finding a way to like maybe utilize the chat box a little bit more, or, I got to kind of play around with it and try to get that connection interaction going. Last night, it was kind of like just me doing a presentation, and then I opened the mics up at the end, and I don't know, it's hard. People don't want to talk over each other. It's just, I got some things to work on from that perspective, but I'm really, really excited about the opportunity and seeing where this goes. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you too. That's really cool. And I think that, this will probably open up a lot of things for your future too. So that's great.
Well, I'm excited to be on Be Balanced Corporate's radar, if nothing else.
Yes.
They know my name, so
Yeah.
I'm excited.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So, we're talking about all aspects of health, and another one would be exercise. So, this is a time where we can't really say that we don't have time to exercise anymore. So, it's a matter of, desire and willpower and all that. But I just actually joined, and I think maybe you already have this, Laurie, I'm not sure, but I just joined the Beachbody online streaming. It's $99 a year.
I call that the buffet of workouts.
Yes, it is amazing. There are so many things to pick from. And I was thinking about doing it for a long time, but I wasn't sure how it was going to work because my computer is kind of small and I don't have the greatest eyesight. And I thought, well, I don't really want to work out with my computer, but I found a way to use the Amazon Fire Stick, and you can stream it to our big TV. So that's been awesome. And I have loved doing that. I haven't repeated it, an exercise twice. And they have even things like, I think it's like 100-day morning meltdown or something. There's like 100 different exercises, workouts and stuff. So anyway, that's been something that I've been doing. We've been going for walks, with the kids. And even if you could just do things like jumping jacks in your house, or push-ups, or marching in place, or walking up and down the steps in your house, those are great ways to just kind of keep active. And it doesn't have to be like a formal workout. You can just do it like a couple times a day, just for 10 minutes or something. Also, YouTube has tons of free videos for every ability, every age group. If you like yoga, you just type in 10-minute yoga or half-hour yoga, or whatever it is. But there are so many things, so you don't have to pay for anything. It's just a really nice service. Getting outside, super important, especially for that vitamin D. I've gone out a few times with my boys, and we have practiced. Their baseball and t-ball seasons have been postponed indefinitely. So we've been practicing t-ball and baseball. We've been playing soccer. We bought these really these lawn darts that are not the old sharp ones that are I don't want to say shoot your eye out, but like poke your eye out, I guess. They're like blunt ends, but that's been fun. Been playing tag. So it's just kind of nice to get out there, and now that the weather is warming up a little bit. But like I said, we don't have an excuse to say that there's not time. So now is the time to move your body. It's really important, since we aren't even going to work or running errands or things like that. And we also know that becoming a couch potato isn't good for our immune systems either. So to be on your best, we need to be moving around a little bit. We will naturally be sitting around more. So just trying to move a little bit every day can really help to make sure that your immunity is where it needs to be.
Yeah, I always tell my busy clients, even before any of this, even if you can't get like a half an hour chunk a day, like break it up into 10-minute segments, And I used to do that even at my corporate job. We had a gym that was available to us. There really wasn't a time in the day where I had a big chunk to go down there and use it. But I just went down in my work clothes and hopped on the treadmill for like 10 minutes. I could step away from my desk for 10 minutes and people didn't miss me,
Right.
And it's the same thing at home. Whatever you're doing, you can step away for 10 minutes 3 times a day. You just got 30 minutes of movement in,
Yes.
Ideally, if you could get it in a chunk, great. But, maybe that's not how it's going to go down for you. And that's okay. Just get it in, like Kim said, whenever you can. And it's good to take, brain breaks too, and just get out of your mind and get into your physical body a little bit, just to help with the anxiety. So anywhere you can insert it throughout the day is certainly very, very important. And do something that you like, not something that feels forced and that, you're not enjoying, because then you're not going to want to do it. Do something that feels good to you. And, all the gyms around here have been forced to close their physical location. And a lot of them have been offering like these really awesome virtual classes. So I love seeing that, people are adapting and it's great. And then, also many kids coaches are sending and leading home workouts. And, I have a client that's been doing her daughter's cheerleading sessions with her. And I think it's awesome. She said she hasn't been this sore in so long because she's doing these like intense ab workouts and stuff with her daughter's cheerleading coach. And she had me laughing so hard. She's like, I'm going to have my back handspring by the time this quarantine's done. And I'm like, I'm going to hold you accountable for that. I want to see a video. So, I have to say, my daughters have been teaching me a little bit about dance and contortion, and they've been kind of surprised by my 44-year-old flexibility. So, I don't do this stuff normally, or at least I don't do it in front of them. Even if I'm like practicing yoga, they're not seeing me do it. So we're kind of doing some of this stuff together, and it's fun. And I probably should hop on their Zoom dance classes too, just like take my client's lead, and she's going to become a cheerleader. I'm going to become a dancer. So.
Well, I saw was it on Facebook that you posted? I seriously almost spit my water out. Laurie had a picture of she and her 2 daughters, like holding their legs, like their feet, like up by their heads.
At the dinner table. We were like at an island eating dinner. Yeah.
And I was like, I commented, I'm like, I literally would tear my hamstring if I tried to do that. And that is not a joke. For sure. Like you're flexible, girl.
Well, I have people sending me like personal messages like, was that your leg? And that made me laugh really hard too. Like, would I just be
like
using someone else's leg? I mean,
that's what it would be for me.
It was so funny. But yeah, this is what happens during our dinner dance parties.
Good for you.
Craziness.
Awesome.
We'll see. I'm working on some of their other tricks. We'll see if I get them.
Yeah, please post them. So let's talk about some other fun things. How about some good TV? Let's, first of all, I want to say this, my recommendation to everybody is let's only watch the news when necessary. Let's not, watch CNN all day long or whatever, news, channel that you like to watch. Let's not watch it all day long because there's nothing that really good that's going to come from that because it just creates more worry. Of course, you need to keep updated with what's happening in the world. And I watch I will watch the local channel for the weather, and I watch the nightly news like at 6:30, and that's all I will watch. And sometimes I don't even watch the whole thing. Because we do need to know about closures and, implications that it's maybe going to have on our health, just to see what's happening. But too much isn't good for our well-being and really can raise our anxiety levels and cortisol levels, like Laurie said. So anyway, I want to talk about some fun TV. So Laurie and I are going to tell you a little bit about what we've been watching, just to read some of our lists. So I have been watching, I love Netflix. So if you have Netflix, I have some recommendations. So Good Girls Seasons 1 and 2 are on Netflix, and it's so good that season 3 was just picked up by NBC. So they're airing that now, so you could probably watch it on demand. So addictive. I love that show. Atypical is one that I just started watching. It's about a boy with autism, but it's like funny. It's like his family, how they deal with him, and how he feels about the world and in therapy. And it's very interesting, but it's not like a heavy show. It's sort of a comedy. Schitt's Creek is another one, and Schitt's is spelled Schitts. Schitt's Creek, that has run, I think, 6 seasons, and it's now done. So you could just binge watch all of them, but it's so funny. Grace and Frankie is another one I love. It's with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. Again, it just ended, but that has at least 6 seasons, if not more. Ozark is one that I love, and I think a new season is coming out, maybe even tomorrow. Love is Blind, we've talked about on this show before. That's a Netflix show, very fun. And Dead to Me is another one on Netflix. And then Laurie, you have one on Netflix too that you were
I've watched some of them that you've talked about too. Good Girls is on my list due to your recommendation, so that'll keep me busy for a little while. I finished, when all this started, I finished Virgin River. I kind of watched that one, I think, very quickly. I don't think there were that many episodes, so I binged that one pretty quick.
It's so good.
So for Netflix, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm sure there's some that I've watched in the past that I could recommend, but right now the only thing on my radar was I just watched Virgin River. I finished Love is Blind, which you guys heard me talk about. And I've moved on to some other things like on demand, that is on regular TV. So you might have heard me talk about this one before too, Flirty Dancing. I think it's funny. There's 6 episodes. Now that we have some time, you can just go on demand and look in the series and you'll find it. But my latest guilty pleasure is Love Island. That I've been watching on demand too. It's on a major channel. They're actually releasing a new season this spring. So I'm watching the old season, whenever it was aired. I don't even know. But I started from the beginning. There's 22 episodes.
Oh.
And it is, so it's, I'm a Bachelor lover. It's different than The Bachelor because there's no cattiness. Like everyone gets along, which I find really cool. Like the guys are all like bros and they're so funny. They play like leapfrog. Like these guys just crack me up. Like there's not, even though everyone's kind of competing for the same girls and guys, like they all get along and they're very diplomatic about it. And I like that because I hate the cattiness of the Bachelor. But what really gets me about Love Island, and I think I got Kim hooked before we started recording because I was telling her about this, but so they do this coupling up, but then you have to do these challenges with whoever you're coupled with. And that's where it gets really funny. Like I have found myself during this past really stressful week, when I go and I watch the show, I'm sitting on the couch and I am like laughing hysterically out loud, like sometimes even like tears from laughing so hard. So, like some of the challenges in these games that they have to play, it's so funny. So that's really got me laughing and I appreciate that.
That's so funny. I just looked it up. It's on CBS. So
thank you.
CBS. Yeah. That's so awesome.
But it's old. You know what I mean? It's old. It's
yeah.
Season, so you have to go into
You have to stream it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to do it for sure. Also, if you have Amazon Prime, this one, talk about like laughing so hard that you almost pee your pants. My sister shared this with me. It is these girls have a YouTube channel, and I think the YouTube channel is the same name as the stand-up comedy. It's called I Mom So Hard.
I mean, the name's even funny.
It is hilarious, like physical comedy. Like at one point, like they had their like shirts pulled up and they were like making their belly buttons talk to each other. Like they are like, like whatever, this is what we look like. We are moms, like just like basically like making fun of like all the stressors that they have and life, but it's hilarious. I can't recommend it enough. Like you definitely need to watch that. It's just so fun.
I don't have Amazon Prime, but I'll have to check it out on YouTube. Definitely.
Yes. Look it on YouTube. And they might even have the stand up on their channel, on their YouTube channel. So, and if you do have Amazon Prime, and a couple other recommendations, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, that one an Emmy, Jack Ryan, Catastrophe. And then as far as regular TV goes, this time of year, the Spring Baking Championship is one of my favorites. Like I'm not a baker. Like I would never be able to participate in something like that. But I just think it's I love watching these people come up with their creations and how pretty they are. And I don't know, it's just one of those feel good shows for me. This Is Us. Do you watch This Is Us, Laurie?
Oh yeah.
Did you watch it last night?
No, I haven't
Okay, I won't say
recorded. So
anything.
okay.
It's the season finale.
Oh boy, those are always good.
Oh, yeah. I feel like I cry in every episode. So
Uh,
it's a really good one. So, and then my husband and I like The Blacklist. We are like 20 episodes behind though, because, we just don't have time to watch together.
to watch it together.
But,
Yeah,
right,
that's the problem with those.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So I like A Million Little Things. Have you not got into that one?
You know
That's
what?
on
I
Thursday
did
nights.
watch it a couple times, but I haven't seen it like this year. So
It's intense.
Yeah.
It's intense, but I like it. I get sucked in every time. And then, of course, it's a new season of American Idol, so that's going on.
Yeah.
So if you haven't been plugged into that, you can kind of go back to the beginning and start from there. So, oh, and then one more thing I wanted to mention, and you guys will laugh because I talk about this all the time during the holidays. All the Hallmark movies. So they're bringing back, in case you need a little Christmas and you need a little Christmas cheer, they're bringing back all their holiday movies right now. Now I've seen them all because I watched them all during the holidays, so I probably won't tune in. But for all of you that are looking for a little bit of feel-good cheesiness, that's a good place to go.
I love that. I love that all of these, just, I don't know, whether it's online or TV, everyone's coming together to try to like help people that are stuck at home. I just love that. I think that's so cool that Hallmark Channel did that.
Me
so
too.
Then there's some, we could talk about some books too. So we each have a few recommendations if you're a book lover. So as far as self-help books go, I have, a few. Ask and It Is Given is by Esther and Jerry Hicks. And it is basically about like attracting into your life the things that are positive and focusing on the positive, and that more of that will come to you. And it's a book that I have highlighted a lot, just because I think there are very important takeaways and things to think about every day. Another one that I have lots of notes and highlights it's called A Complaint-Free World by Will Bowen. And I think now more than ever, that's so pertinent, because how many of us complain? I mean, I think we all do right now. There's so many things that we're complaining about, even though, we're pointing out all of these positive things. But that is a challenge, to try to not complain. I think it's for 21 days. And you're moving like a bracelet from wrist to wrist every time you complain. But it's really, the goal is to make you stop and think about the things that you're saying. And it's not the internal thoughts, because we know that these thoughts come and go and we just forgive ourselves for them, but not vocalizing them, not complaining, and trying to focus on the positive instead, taking a turn for that.
I like that. It's like not spreading the negativity. Even if you have the thought, you're not like spreading it around, because it's
exactly.
Contagious.
It is contagious. Right. And so then besides, devotionals, that would also be kind of like a self-help thing. Another author that I love is Eckhart Tolle, and he wrote A New Earth. And I think, Laurie, you had mentioned to me The Power of Now. This is another of his books. But I just wanted to say real quick, I saw him on, I subscribed to his mailing list, and he had posted a YouTube video, and he had some really interesting things to say the other day. I just want to share a few of those with you. He just said, if we are living on the surface of life, it is like, from the Bible, like a house built on the sand. It's unstable. And that's like when we allow ourselves, we allow the news to rule our lives and our consciousness. And we forget about the foundation built on the rock, and that rock is God. And it's looking deep inside of us. And Eckhart was saying that if you are truly present, like you're present right now in the moment, not worrying about the future, not worrying about things that are happening to other people, then you can realize that nothing is really wrong in this moment. There might be some financial concerns, and some people are having some health issues, but when you really focus on minute-to-minute life, staying present can help us get through this. And we have to believe that these things will all be rectified, once it's over, all the financial concerns, illnesses. And, unfortunately, even though there's, death happening around us, that, we talked about spring and how there is the promise of new life. And he just says that there's nothing good that comes from worrying ourselves sick. So it's important to just have faith, and that's really all we can do. He says that fear equals loss of the present moment. And we've turned into our thinking minds. If you're feeling bad, sad, worried, just come back to the present moment, come back to that breath that Laurie was saying. Talk about, taking a few breaths, come into your physical body, and, understanding that all is fine now, and turn your thoughts toward positive things that are surrounding you in your living space, the people in your life, and just trying to stay positive. And one last quote that he said was, "When the ego weeps for what it has lost, the spirit rejoices for what it has found." And so sometimes, unfortunately, it takes us losing things to understand the gifts that are around us right now. So I just thought he had some really good points. So he's an author to check out for sure. And I
Oh,
know,
wow.
Laurie,
I love that. I'm just sitting here
Yeah.
taking that all in. I absolutely love that, Kim. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah. And I know you wanted to read something from a book too.
Yeah. So, just to go back to suggestions, Present Over Perfect is always on my must read list. I tell everybody. And if you haven't got around to it, we did a whole episode on it here, back in the beginning, I guess it was. But, we did, Kim and I, a whole probably hour talking about this book because we loved it so much and there were so many great takeaways. So if you're looking for something to read and you haven't read it yet, that's always a go-to for me to recommend to people. But and I also have a whole bookshelf full of awesome books, but I'll save you the me reading down through them because I love them all. But what I'm currently reading right now, that was a book that was on my shelf, and I think I started reading it a while ago. I don't know how far I got, but I picked it back up because I thought it was very relevant to where we are right now. And it's called 1,000 Gifts. And on the front, it says, "A dare to live fully right where you are." And I think that is so very important. And, anyone who follows me knows I love to talk about joy. I love that word. I'm all about it. Try to find it every day. And I wanted to read a little bit from this book kind of around joy, even though, there's some bad things going on around us. But the author says, "I know there is poor and hideous suffering, and I've seen the hungry and the guns that go to war. I have lived pain, and my life can tell I only deepen the wound of the world when I neglect to give thanks for the early light dappled through the leaves and the heavy perfume of the wild roses in early July, and the song of the crickets on humid nights, and the rivers that run, and the stars that rise, and the rain that falls, and all the good things that a good God gives. Why would the world need more anger, more outrage? How does it save the world to reject joy when it's joy that saves us? Rejecting joy to stand with the suffering doesn't rescue the suffering. The brave who focus on all things good and all things beautiful and all things true, even in the small, who give thanks for it and discover joy even in the here and now. They are the change agents who bring fullest light to all the world. When we lay the soil of our hard lives open to the rain of grace and let joy penetrate our cracked and dry places, let joy soak into the broken skin and the deep crevices, life grows. How can this not be the best thing for the world?"
Wow. That is so relevant for today.
Right?
I love that.
I know. It's just crazy that I picked this book back up. But, the title 1,000 Gifts is her obviously documenting 1,000 things that she's grateful for. But the things are so specific. Like she's washing dishes. She's a farmer's wife. She lives with, taking care of her family and her children and a farm and just taking care of everything all the time. And she was feeling, very discontent in that for a long time. And then she started this list. And one of these are just an example of the kind of things she's putting on the list. Is she's like standing at the kitchen sink and she's washing dishes and a sud comes up, and catches the sunlight. And so she's thankful for that, and just it's all these little things that you start to see in your day when you pay attention to them and you let these little moments of magic in your everyday things kind of shine through.
Yeah.
And we need that now more than ever.
We absolutely do. And I think that's important what you said, in that quote too, about that we're not helping, by suffering ourselves, we're not helping other people who are suffering.
Yes.
We need to be those change agents, the people who bring the joy, because who needs joy the most is someone who is suffering. They don't necessarily need commiseration. Of course we have sympathy, but to bring, an element of change because we're all living in our heads right now. The mental heaviness of this is so profound. So I just love that. And what's the author's name of the book?
It is Anne Voskamp. If I pronounce that correctly, it's Voskamp.
Okay.
Is the last name.
I wonder, I think she has an Advent like devotional for kids. I think we own that. It's like a Christmas tree pop-out book, and each day there's a little story for kids. So I think,
I think our church did this as an Advent Bible study.
Okay,
which is probably why I have the book, because I probably got it from that shelf.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I think I owe them some money for books.
It's free. Come on, that's so funny.
I better write them a big fat check right now.
Oh gosh. I mean, this episode, I think we're going to have to break this up into two parts, but, I was going to mention some fiction books, for those fiction lovers out there. So I'm reading something called In the Dark by Laurie and White right now. And it's just like this mystery of these people who are lured to this, they think they're going on a retreat, but they're like lured to this like island, and it's like a murder mystery, and one by one they disappear, and it's just trying to figure out what's happening with them. It's just like, definitely a thing to take your mind off the situation. And I also like anything, these two women are not related, but they have the same names, Sinead Moriarty and Leanne Moriarty, and they're just great fiction writers. So one other thing that I found, somebody had posted this on social media, and I think it's awesome, and I've taken advantage of it. There is a website called Scribd. It's SCRIBD.com. And you can it's a downloadable, basically library. And it's normally, I think, almost $10 a month, like $9.95 a month, but they are opening it up. This is another nice service that, people are doing for, communities who are stuck at home, but you can read any book free for 30 days. So I took advantage of that and have, I started reading a book called Obedience Over Hustle, which kind of reminds me of Present Over Perfect in a lot of ways. So, yeah.
So I haven't read a whole lot of fiction lately. And I should get back into that, because I really used to enjoy it. But I have been reading a magazine, which I have to just stop and recommend to everybody. It's Magnolia Magazine. If you are HGTV lovers, you know where that's coming from. But I love it because it's only quarterly. So, and I get like the paper one, right? That I feel it in my hands, and I flip and I look at the pictures, and I love that. I take it with me when I'm going places. I sit outside and I look at it. And, I love the pictures. I love the decor, of course, but there's also like really great articles, like the insight in there. It's kind of release seasonal, which I like that about it, because it's kind of talking about each season that we're in. You only get 4 a year, and then there's decor, there's recipes, and then there's just every article has resonated so much with me about the season that we're in. And so just something I wanted to recommend. And I do a little Christmas exchange with my college friends, and that was my gift this year. And I thought every time one of them comes in the mail, they'll think of me, and now they actually have some time to read them. So yay. Yeah. And Magnolia Magazine. It's good stuff.
I love them. I really do. So one last area we were going to talk about was just podcasts to recommend. And just a few, and I'm not going to really say too much about them, but these are ones that I recommend in addition to our own. But some that I love are Dishing Up Nutrition. They're a group of nutritionists who talk about various topics, but very helpful, to the point. They're like Minnesota ladies. They're so cute. Love Your Life and the Law of Attraction. It's one podcast title, Love Your Life. It's either, I think maybe it's Love Your Life plus Law of Attraction. And again, it's just trying to find ways to focus on the positive things in life to get more positive. Elevation Church is one that I listen to on a weekly basis. Pastor Stephen Furtick is the pastor. It's a big church based out of, I think, Charlotte, North Carolina, but I listen to his sermons every week. They're so good. He's just a vibrant speaker. The Ultimate Health Podcast is one. The Lazy Genius. She has quick 30-minute episodes about just ways to hack your life. Like she might say like how to prepare, like a lazy genius means it's easy, but it's super smart. Like Thanksgiving,
super efficient.
very efficient, right? Like host a Thanksgiving dinner, or, homeschooling your kids during the coronavirus and things like that. So it's an interesting one. And then 3 and 30 is one that's geared towards moms, and it's 3 takeaways from expert guests that like, it's 30 minutes. So 3 and 30 minutes. And again, those are all different things. And it's mostly geared towards like self-care for moms, or, how to like raise your children without yelling at them and honoring their needs. And it's just, I like those last 2 that I mentioned just because they're kind of quick and short takeaways. So
unlike what we're doing here today.
Yeah.
Like you said, we'll probably break this into 2 episodes, like part 1 and part 2, because I think there's a lot of goodness here, but it is getting very long. But I so appreciate those podcast recommendations that you just made too. And I just got excited about all of them. So I'll have to check them out.
Yes.
Well, at the end here, to kind of wrap up, we wanted to end on a positive note. And, there's a lot of things that I think, and, even by the time this is released, there'll probably be even more clarity on these types of things. But, just even on the front end, some things I see coming out of this in the end. And I want to say silver lining. Some might feel that's a really strong word because these are really, really terrible times. But in that, we are learning some things about ourselves, and we're learning some things about our world, and just some thoughts I wanted to share on things I see coming out of this time, even just with my own family, but also others around me, and just, again, observations that I've made. But some things are learning not to live in excess, learning to slow down, like it or not, right? So learning to deal with disappointment. That's been huge. All these canceled events, canceled dance competition season, canceled trips, canceled school year, pretty much. I mean, like lots of disappointment, not even to mention what adults are facing, from a financial standpoint, and just, how hard and all the sacrifices people have made for their businesses and the market. I mean, gosh, we'll just leave it there. Learning to deal with disappointment, learning to have more compassion for others, learning to be a more present family unit in every way. We are present, again, like it or not. Learning to accept what you can't control. Learning to fully utilize technology. This is a big deal. And I think this is going to be one of those good things that come out of this, because so many people have been really intimidated by connecting virtually and leveraging technology that they might already even have in place, but they just don't even utilize because, again, it's intimidating. And we're all being forced into it now and going, oh, okay, this wasn't so hard. I got this. Families are Zooming and FaceTiming and, again, we're doing things that we hadn't done in the past, but the capability has always been there. We're just starting to tap into that. And I think that's kind of a cool thing. And then I think it's also going to show us and really shine a light on things that need to be done differently going forward, when you come out of this time. And we will come out of this.
We will. Those are really good points, Laurie. And I just especially love that, it's making us pause to think about the future going forward, and that, those are all really important things that you've pointed out, those things that we, can be grateful for right now. And I think that, when I think about this from a spiritual standpoint, a silver lining that I would say is that, this time just gives us a forced opportunity to have faith and to put our trust in God or the universe or, whatever, your beliefs are. I've learned firsthand before that surrendering to what is does help you grow as a person, and it deepens your relationship with God. And I do feel like we all have an opportunity for this right now. And I just want to, point out, because I am Christian, and the Bible does say, has some very important stories to highlight. And we need to remember that God redeemed us and redeemed the Israelites from slavery, parted the Red Sea. He gave Noah the sign of the rainbow, and a promise that he would never again destroy the whole earth. He redeemed his people through the death and resurrection of Christ. God has shown us time and time again that all will be well, and that he is near us during this time of suffering and uncertainty, and he'll deliver us from this phase. So that doesn't mean there isn't suffering, that there isn't sickness and even death, but it does mean that we will be made whole again. And the promise of heaven is eternal. It's our job to remember that heaven begins now, and it begins here on earth with our thoughts, with our actions, with our citizenship and love for neighbor. So we just really want to thank you today for joining us, and we want you to know how grateful we are for your support and that we are holding you in our thoughts and prayers. We truly love and appreciate you, and we will see you next time.
That's it for today. For more from Kim, you can go to kimmarovich.com. For more from Laurie, go to simplyempoweredllc.com. We're always open to listener questions or suggestions for the show. You can email those to contact@awholenewyou.podcast.com. We'd also love it if you joined our Facebook community and followed us on Instagram. Just search for A Whole New You Podcast. And lastly, if you'd be so kind as to leave us a rating and review in iTunes, we would really appreciate that so more people can find our show and join our community. We'll see you next week.